also with us. Madam, should we
Yes, I am
start?
with you.
Madam, should we
Yes,
start?
you may.
Okay, thank you, madam. Admin, please
Yes,
start the
you may.
recording. Admin, please start the recording. A very good evening, respected Principal Madam, Dr. Vidisha Ghosdostidar, respected Speaker, Dr. Arindam Mukherjee, participants, colleagues, and dear students. I am Mohua Basu, the IQAC coordinator of Banipur Mohila Mahavidyalaya, and today we are here for a webinar organized by the Department of Botany of our college. I would now request Madam Principal, Dr. Vidisha Ghosdostidar, to please give the welcome address. Over to you, Madam.
Thank you. Thank you, Professor Mahua Basu. Good evening, everybody. I welcome respected speaker and all other teachers and students present here on behalf of Banipur Mohila Mahavidyalaya. Today, we all have gathered here to listen about genetically modified plants and how these plants can solve our environment-related problems and scarcity of food. Gene modification is a scientific technique through which gene sequence of any living being are changed. Genes are responsible for all the features any living being carries within it and also pass it in the next generation. Genetic characters may change due to sexual reproduction when characters from both father and mother get assimilated in the offspring, and also it is changed through mutation. Genetic modification may bring good characteristics as well as
Madam is not audible.
unfavorable characteristics yield of plant and animal products. But the question is whether this genetic modification is a blessing to the mankind. We can recall the history of BT brinjal that created much controversy in recent past. Now we all will be enlightened by the speaker about this. Now over to Mohun.
Thank you so much, Madam. I now request Dr. Anindita Kha, Faculty Department of Botany of our college, to please take forward the session. Over to you, Anindita.
Thank you, Madam. Good evening, everyone. I am Dr. Anindita Khan from Department of Botany. I welcome you all to the state-level webinar organized by the Department of Botany in collaboration with the IQAC of our college. I thank our Madam Principal and our IQAC Coordinator Ma'am for giving me this opportunity to moderate this session. Our resource person for today's webinar is Dr. Arindam Mukherjee, Associate Professor and Head of the Department, Mrinalini Datta Mahavidyapith, Birati, under West Bengal State University. Dr. Mukherjee completed his BSc and MSc in Botany from University of Kalyani. He obtained his PhD degree from Bidhan Chandra Krishi Vishwavidyalaya as UGC Junior Research Fellow and Senior Research Fellow. He joined in the Department of Botany, Malda College, as Junior Lecturer in 1999. He joined in the Department of Botany, Mrinalini Datta Mahavidyapith, in 2010 as a reader. He organized various conference seminars at state, national, and international levels, both in offline and online mode. He is life member of the Indian Science Congress Association, All India Congress of Cytology and Genetics, the Indian Society of Genetics and Plant Breeding, Crop Science Society of America, European Biotechnological Network. He has completed one UGC minor research project. He has published many papers in different journals and chapters in books. His main research areas are evolutionary and behavioral genetics, groundwater arsenic, ethnobotany, microbiology, etc. Dr. Mukherjee is also the coordinator of Department of Microbiology and convener of Science Forum, Mrinalini Datta Mahavidyapith, Birati. I now request Dr. Mukherjee to deliver his lecture on role of genetically modified plants in environment and food security. Over to you, Dr. Mukherjee. Sir, please give your speech.
Thank you, Dr. Anindita. Now I am sharing my information. Is it seen in full screen?
Yes, sir. It is seen.
Yes, sir. Okay, thank you. Okay, today I am sharing my experience and some knowledge about the genetically modified plants and their role in environment and food security. Now, in the introductory notes, we are telling something about the process and the mechanism or the phenomenon of genetically modification. This is nothing but insertion of DNA from one organism into another. Actually, this is a way of transgenesis. That means transfer of genetic element or say gene from one organism to another. Say from bacteria to plant, say from plant to animal, and even from bacteria to animal. And all these changes and effort actually has a definite goal. That means in order to achieve some desired trait, some good quality or quantitative character, which is not possible, which is absent in the said organism. The most promising technology, this is the transgenesis or genetic modification, which is ever developed for improving the food supplies. And this is the words from Sir Richard Roberts. He is a co-recipient of Nobel Prize in Physiology or Medicine in 1993. Now coming to the technology or genetic modification, it is done by the modern biotechnology, and it is sometimes also called recombinant DNA technology or popular genetic engineering. That is incorporation of say toxin producing gene to cotton, brinjal, maize, etc. plant from a bacterium, Bacillus thuringiensis. There are two basic ways or principal ways for transfer of this gene from one organism to another. One is biological method or plasmid mediated transfer, where Agrobacterium tumefaciens is involved. Its plasmid is used as a vehicle or vector to transfer a particular gene from one source to another sink or another group of organisms. This is one way. And in another way, that is the physical or laboratorical method, that is utilization of gene gun technique and other related techniques like electroporation and like that. Nowadays, CRISPR technology, it is nothing but cluster regularly interspace short palindrome repeat CRISPR. This is a natural system used by bacteria to defend themselves against the invading viruses. Now, this technique CRISPR allows scientists to isolate and essentially cut and paste a specific section of DNA from one source organism, and it is transferred to another sink. Now, there are certain differences or comparison between already selective breeding and newly developed genetically modification technology. The age-old selective breeding technique is very slow. It needs say 20 to 30 years or even more time to develop a new plant which has good properties. But genetic modification is a very fast process. It needs only few years, 3 to 5 years, 7 years, not more than that. Selective breeding technique is little bit imprecise. We cannot control it in so much precision, but we can control and we can make it precisely. Genetic transfer is precise in case of genetic modification technique. In selective breeding, the genes we can transfer from one organism to another that is present in the organism, and it is naturally occurring in the wild relatives of that organism, not coming from very distantly related organism. But here, in case of genetic modification technique, we can introduce gene into an organism that would not naturally occurring, and it is coming from so very distantly related and in between to even two organisms belong to two different kingdoms. Say one from bacteria, another from plant kingdom, one from animal, another from plant kingdom, like that. Selective breeding doesn't require any help from wet lab. Only plant breeder or like breeders, they can develop and well adapted or organism like that by selective breeding. They need a precise methodology which does not always need any help from wet lab. But here, genetic modification, it always requires the help from a precise wet lab. There are something in favor of the genetically modified foods or crops. Like by this way, we can develop the disease resistance and also pest resistance in our crop. We can grow plants which can withstand in harsh climate like drought, like saline, like other adverse situations they can withstand. Our quantity of food, that means food per acre, may increase by this technique enormously. We can elevate different nutritional values in our crops by this way. And we can even deliver some drug yielding properties in some animal or even plants, which is not its own feature. There are several economic benefits we can get from genetically modified technology or crops. By this way, less crop damage is happen. Actually, by this technique, we can develop certain properties inside a plant that they can themselves make their way from they devoid of any infection. They can drive their insect out from their system like that. Also, their yield increases. And by this way, we can reduce the use of chemicals, herbicides, pesticides, and as a result, the input cost becomes reduced. We can save, farmer can save its cost for initial input even in the field. As a result, the income of the farmer or farm may increase. Small scale, that's mean in the single farmer or one or few farmers angle. And commercial producer means multinational companies, big firms, they can also increase their income by adopting this type of uh, crops in their agriculture or in their fields, farms. There are some views that agronomic traits also improve by this way. Yield of crops become increased. Fertilizers and herbicides dependency is reduced. And as a result, enhance of resistance to weed, pests, and other diseases may establish. And by this way, the vulnerability of environmental stress can also be reduced. There is another parameters for the use of GM crops in modern agricultural field, like food quality. Not only quantity, this is the quality of food. To increase the nutritional qualities of food, like in some cases, some food with improved cooking quality, shelving time, and like that. To improve additional medical constituents in foods, that means a food with some sorts of uh, antibiotics or other nutrients related to health benefits. To improve the taste, texture, and also appearance of food. To improve the food processing and storage. There are some aspects of use of GM crops, particularly in case of some non-food crops. To produce novel substances like vaccine, biofuels, antibiotics, etc., inside a plant or plant products. In forestry, in industry, powers, and environmental remediation, these GMO plants or GMOs, they are used. This is instrumental reasoning based on promised benefits, and sometimes many unfulfilled aspects are also there. We cannot achieve all the benefits which we need, but we are trying so. Now, there is a paper, this is an overview of the last 10 years. This is the paper of 2013. That means it is from 2003 to 2013, 10 years overview regarding the genetically engineered crops safety research. In their abstract, they told that we have reviewed the scientific literature on genetically engineered crops safety for last 10 years, and the scientific research conducted so far has no deleted or any significant hazards directly connected with the use of GM crops. In the meantime, there are certain views that GM has some adverse effect, some health hazards. But this paper, published in 2013, clearly declared that has not detected any significant hazard directly connected with the use of GM crops. Though there is a gradual increase of the GM crops throughout the world, but also there is a stagnation of this technique. The impressive year on year increase in acres cultivated, say in case of USA, Brazil, and China, 77% of their land acreage is used for the cultivation of GMOs. This is one beneficial side or favorable aspect, but uptake is varied from country to country. Like Europe or European countries, they are largely resistant against the use of GMO. Initially, they allow this cultivation of this type of crops, but after 2005 and like that, there are some resistance against the cultivation of this crop. China, unclear it will go ahead with BT rice. They cannot go for BT rice or the brown rice or like that in their country further. After 15 years, almost all the acreage is still to GM traits. Tolerance to a particular type of herbicide, this is one prominent aspect. Use of GMO, they are herbicide resistant, mostly the dicotyledonous plants and also in some case of monocot. And one insecticide gene construct derived from natural BT bacteria, that means Bacillus thuringiensis. These two type of application, herbicide resistance, glyphosate resistance, and another aspect, this is the BT gene resistant crops. Originally from one company, Monsanto, America-based multinational company, they mainly geared towards North America. They actually make the major decision regarding the distribution and also development of the GM crops. The GM product pipeline has stagnated despite all the promises, though these techniques have some more good aspects, but monopoly of a particular company, Monsanto, it is very much headache to the modern scientists and science for the use of or the spread of GM crops worldwide. Now look into some promising GM crops. First one is BT brinjal. It is an insect-resistant crop, BT brinjal. It is a very good and widely used vegetable crop in India, Bangladesh, and other countries also. Mostly there, it is used in Southeast Asian countries. And this brinjal, it is, or egg palm, this, it is infected by the fruit and shoot borer, FSB. The caterpillar of this insect, they infect the plant. Actually, adult, they lay eggs inside this fruit, very tender fruit, by making a small hole. And after hatching, the eggs become converted into caterpillar, and ultimately the fruit, it is not in the way of use for modern cooking. But BT brinjals does not require any insecticides spraying. By the way of GM or GM technologies, the gene from bacterium Bacillus thuringiensis, this is a toxin producing gene. It is isolated from Bacillus thuringiensis and it is given to this plant brinjal and make it resistant to this FSB caterpillar. Another plant is plantain or the banana. This is the bacterial Xanthomonas wilt resistant banana. Banana is a very major crop of many African countries like Uganda, Sudan, etc. And almost 30% calories from their people come from this banana. The banana of this country often infected with the bacterial wilt or Xanthomonas wilt. Now this type of banana become resistant against this BHW and nematode also with the help of this genetic modified technology. Another is insect resistance of cowpea. It is used generally for forage crop or feeder. In the left hand, this is the wild type plant which is not resistant to insect. Insect make some hole inside the pod, and this pod is not utilized. And this is the resistant GM resistant cowpea. Insect only can bite here and there, making some small scar only. But the fruit, it is not infected heavily like the wild one. Now coming to another monocot plant. This is the maize. This is the drought-tolerant maize. It is a project, partnership project, UMA, water efficient maize for Africa. This is a GM maize plant they have produced that can tolerate dehydration. That's been drought resistant plant, and the gene from where this character is transferred to this maize coming from Bacillus subtilis or BS. Now another important quality or aspect is the tearless GM onion. Tearless onion. It is not the quantitative increase, it is the increase in quality. Like GM crops may eliminate unwanted effects. Like this type of onion, this is a blessing from GM technology that does not cause people to tear up when chopping the onion in kitchen. This type of GM is called tearless GM onion. Now, in the golden rice, it is very much important. The golden rice, it is another example of GM rice or monocot plants. It contains high amount of beta carotene. Beta carotene, when it is in human body, it is converted into vitamin A. And vitamin A is very much good for our vision. And this golden rice could reverse the developmental impairment of millions of children who have suffering from deficiency of vitamin A in their diet. This is very much promising GM crop in the world. Now, another aspect of GM crop is BT cotton. This character is coming from a very small rod-shaped bacterium, the Bacillus thuringiensis. From this organism, the gene is collected and transferred to maize or the maize, and this toxin-producing gene, when expressed in this plant, host plant, the European corn borers, they generally make some holes on the adult plants and also in the cob. When the BT protein is developed inside the plant, say root to leaves, flowers, fruits, etc., any of the plants, this BT protein, when it is ingested and inside the animal system or here the borer insect, it penetrates and collapses the cell layering in the gut of their insect, and ultimately the insect dies. So by this way, the corn plant become insect resistant. Now in BT cotton case, BT cotton, one very important disease, insect or moth larvae producing disease is bollworm. This BT cotton, they can combat the bollworm infection, and the BT cotton, it is adopted widely in India now. Almost 83% of total acreage of cotton cultivation, particularly in South and Southwest India, almost 83% now in 2020-21, it is under BT cotton cultivation. BT cotton reduces the use of chemical insecticide by 37%, almost more than one-third. It also increases the crop yields by 22%, 1/5% of crop yield, and it increases the farmer's profit by 68%, two-thirds or more increase in the income of farmer. There are some advantages of BT crops over other genetically modified crops. Like the insecticide would be present in the plant cells for entire growing season and protecting the plant to all times. When you can grow, when you can sow the plant in rainy season or in summer or in winter or in autumn, any season in your field or crop land, then the plants may show this type of expression of the gene, toxin producing gene. All plant cells, they are protected, not only the reproductive part like fruits, flowers, not only aerial parts like leaves, stems, but also starting from roots ending with the flower fruit. Throughout the plant, this type of toxin is available. It is potentially cheaper. This technique or BT crops, they are potentially cheaper since repeated sprayings are not needed. With the cultivation of non-BT crops, non-BT cotton, non-BT maize, we need 3 to 5 times spray in an annual plant, whose lifetime is only 3 to 4 months. We need 3 to 5 times sprays, particularly in the adult or flowering to fruiting condition. No insecticides during drifting on their air or entering surface or groundwater sources. That means if we spray insecticides or pesticides aerially, either by dusting or by spraying, there is a fair possibility to drifting the excess pesticides or insecticide from one place to another, from plant to soil, from soil to water, and their amount becomes increased month after month in the soil or water in the environment. Now comes in the point of environmental aspect, GM plant and environmental aspects. GM plants or genetically modified plants and their role in the environment, they have some unintended effects like dynamics of population may be hampered. They have some impacts on the non-target species. Non-target species means mostly the weeds, mostly the other wild varieties. They are either directly by predation or competition, or indirectly by changes in the land use or farming practices. This is the two possible ways of unintended effects. In the biogeochemistry level, there are some impacts on the soil microbial population that regulate the flow of nitrogen, phosphorus, and other essential elements from atmosphere to hydrosphere or like that. Biogeochemical cycles may hamper a little bit by the repeated use of GMOs in a particular field year after year. Now, gene flow, the movement of gametes or the other individuals from a specific population to another. As I mentioned earlier, the gene which are present in a GMO plant can slightly be incorporated to other wild allies or wild relatives through the movement of gametes. And second one, it may generate a significant change in the allele frequency to the receiving population. The population which received the modified genes from GMO, that means the wild relatives, their genetic frequencies is changed after few years. As a result, particularly the higher in areas of origin and diversification, this phenomenon is found mostly in the center of origin of a plant, where the number of wild plants and wild relatives, they are much more prevalent, and the center of diversification, where the wild becomes modified or diversified into cultivated ones. In these two areas, two zones, the effect of gene flow is pronounced. This is done through gene flow is done through cross-pollination, mixed mating, dispersal, or microbial transfer, etc. How gene can move from the GMO to non-GMO, like this way. Another example of monarch butterfly controversy. Monarchs or monarch butterfly, that is the Danus flexibus, they are the best known butterflies in North America. Naturally, they feed on leaves of milkweed plant, that is the Asclepias curasafica. This is in our common locality, it is say akundo or like that plants, family Asclepiaceae. The plants, that means the Asclepias curasafica, it is very much common and found growing naturally next to wheat maize fields in many countries. This type of Asclepias, wild plants, they grow in the next proximity to the BT maize fields. If the larvae of the monarch butterfly, if they feed on collected pollen-covered milkweed plants, that means leaves of milkweed plants, which are collected and covered by the BT maize cotton pollen, what happens? The larvae, they feed on this type of leaves along with the GMO pollen, pollen coming from the maize plant, and BT maize pollen part of this monarch larvae, and particularly in laboratory techniques, in laboratory basis experiment, huge amount of monarch butterflies which feed on the pollen covered leaves of milkweed plants, they become died. This is the negative feedback or negative role of GMO on the natural ecosystem. Now, there are some adverse effects also on the rhizosphere, adverse effects of GMO. Particularly the BT varieties, they have been found to secrete BT toxin into the soil root zones. Root zone is called rhizosphere. And this type of soil in which BT toxin is gradually increase its amount, the zone then produce higher concentration of BT toxins than the normally found. In normal cases, the soil is not having too much toxic materials, but in a field where BT crops are cultivated season after season or years after years, there is a fair possibility to develop such concentration, huge amount of concentration of BT toxins in the soil. This may affect the population of soil insect, and also it may make some hazards to other nematodes and other microflora like bacteria. So GM had some bad effects, various effects also, according to some research and observation. The beneficial species, threatened species, and endangered species, they can regarded as the non-target effects. They are not target plants like cotton, like banana, like maize, like rice, but they have some way they have evolved and they can persist in nature as wild relatives. They are the depositor of various novel gene, but with the help of the cultivation of GMOs, say 83% GMO cotton in India and 76% GMO throughout America, the other plants, they become diminished, their number become diminished days after days. And I have also mentioned the gene flow, and which can affect the crop plant and their wild relative, and like that insect resistance genes, herbicide tolerant genes, they can also move from target plant to their non-get wild varieties or wild relatives. And in future, vaccines, chemical, drug, etc., these traits are also reaching from one target to non-target plants. Okay. Now this is about some effects, major issues of transient escape or gene flow. I mentioned this earlier a little bit. The creation of super wheat crops. That means a crop with they are not actually resistance against the insecticides or pesticides, but by the use of they become very much in resistance against all these crops gradually. Now, introducing allergens and toxins to the food. This is another very important negative feedback of GM crops. GM crops may introduce some allergic reaction. Not all consumers, but some people may affected by this way of getting or using genetically modified foods. And accidental cross-pollination may happen to affect the gene flow, and antibiotic resistance. It is also another negative feedback to this GMO. The opponents of this view, they are not in the favor of GM crops, continues the trends of chemically dependent and industrial agriculture, technical fix of on problems created by industrial agriculture. Actually, very big companies, they actually take all the properties, all the effects of this genetically modified techniques and crops, say like Monsanto and like other big companies, and they come stitched up between the government and commercial interest. There is some possibility, and there are some unknown risks to human health other than these allergies and others already mentioned. There are some disadvantages of these GMOs like plant, like the damage of ecosystems by unintended effects. It narrows the diversity with more monoculture crops. We can gradually reduce our genetic diversity inside the plant, as because we are only interested about the growing one plant or say BT plant or GMO plants, not other than. As a result, in our nature, all the wild relatives or wild plants or land races, they become abolished. Widen the gap between rich and poor countries. The poor countries, the developed countries, they use the maximum coverage with GM plants, and poor countries like Southeast Asian countries, some European countries, and many African countries, and also some South American countries. There is a gap between the rich and poor countries as a result of this use of and less use of GM. It puts even more power into MNCs. As I mentioned earlier, few MNC, they actually get the maximum effect or power or advantage of GMs. It provides no benefit and no choice for consumer. You have to use, you compel to use these GM products ultimately. As because there is nothing wild crops, no wild products in front of you. You only have to use the GM cotton, GM rice, or GM crops like that. Mixture of value-based and instrumental reason, it is also coming a little bit. Now, last section of my today's discussion, the effect of GM on food security. The food security is nothing but, this is the phenomenon or way of making all people, they have physical and economic access of sufficient, safe, and nutritious food. Sufficient means this is the quantity of food. Safe and nutritious means this is the quality of food. All people have this physical and economic access. This is the motto of Food Security, World Food Security Act. Now, around 900 million, say 90 crore people, they are undernourished. GM crop can make a pivotal role to reduce the hunger. Most of them in the developing countries, poor people, this 900 million people, they mostly reside in the poor countries in the South America, Asia, and Africa. Eradicating hunger, it is a central part of the United Nations Millennium Developmental Goal, the food security. At very beginning, all humans, they got their food by hunting, gathering, and fishing. This is the ancient time people. They can gather their food by hunting, they gather their food by fishing. Then humans invented agriculture and changing the natural ecosystems into ones devoted to the production of food, fiber, fuel, and it goes on and on. A population explosion followed. Agriculture gave us food security, but was also one of the most environmentally damaging human activity. And now even our food security is at a risk. Huge amount of population and our gradual or increasing urbanization, they now make our food security at a risk now. This is a picture of Sudan, African small country. Here, the starving children, they collect and for their food, days after days. Millions of these poor children and their parents also, they collect their food naturally by collecting ants. Now, United Nations Global Goals for Sustainable Development is the Goal to Zero Hunger. This is the name of the project. United Nations Global Goals for Sustainable Development. What is its aims? To end the hunger, to achieve food security, and improved nutrition and promote sustainable agriculture. This is the aims of Goal to Zero Hunger. Combating world hunger by a multi-pronged approach. There are several ways to combat this hunger. We have enough production of food to feed everyone. This is the main picture or figure. But there are some actual causes, though we have enough food to feed out everyone easily, but still there is the hunger. So there are some actual causes behind this hunger. Hunger results from inequity, not food shortage. Food is plentiful, enough food is there, but their distribution is not proper. So this unequal distribution of quality food, also in quantity also, among the communities may cause hunger. Besides this, suffering from poverty is the primary culprit in today's world hunger. Access to quality food depends on variety of political, environmental, and socio-economic factors. Most notably, the armed conflict and the natural disasters. These are the different few of some different aspects for hunger, though there is plenty full food. So GM or genetically modified technique could impact food security by these three possible ways. This technique contributes to food production increase. This is the quantitative approach, high yielding feature. It affects food safety and food quality. This is the qualitative aspect. And it influences the economic and social situation of farmers. This is the socio-economic component of the farmers. In 2012, 170 million hectares, around say 12%, was under GM crops like soybean, corn, cotton, and canola. But in 2020, it is about 280 million hectares. There is a increasement of 20% increasement within 8 years. Now, GM technology is not only more risky than, it's not actually more risky than environmental plant breeding normal conventional technologies. It is now observed that there are some theories regarding the side effects or bad effects or some hazards of GM plants, but it is found that our conventional techniques, they have also some hazards. It is not less than that of the GM techniques. GM technology can help to breed food crops with higher contents of micronutrients, which is not achieved by our normal or conventional plant breeding techniques. Some economic and social situation of the farmers. Half of the global GM crop area is located in the developing countries. Bt cotton adoption reduces chemical pesticides use and increases yields of farmers. Higher incomes are generally expected to cause increases in food consumption in poor farmer households. Farmers, they have now money in their hands, they can buy, they can also consume the good quality food. Cotton is non-food cash crop. Cotton is not utilized directly as food anywhere, but it can also increase the socio-economic condition of the farmer, though it is not utilized in the nutritional point of view, but farmer can earn maximum 68% of their income can be increased by adopting GM cotton. There are some challenges for increasing food demand. The explosive population growth, the climate change, environmental degradation, and reduction in the availability of agricultural land. These are the major constraints of today's increase of the food or food production. There are some risks to long-term food security. Like GM seeds are produced primarily only by few companies, multinational companies. They own the intellectual properties of these genetic variations or the strains. So the global food production depends on the activity of a few companies. And there should be a risk to long-term food security by creating the potential for a single point failure. If they cannot help, there is a grave situation in food security. So increased research and improved safety, food safety now go hand in hand. With the adequate research, these organisms, jasmine, GMO, genetically modified organisms, can be safely commercialized. We can commercialize this GMO in such a way that their side effects become minimized. Many experimental variations of engineered genes can be applied to minimize potential risk. This has to be searched or traced. To facilitate monitoring and separation of genetically modified products from non-GMO, we can use the non-GMO plants, and we can also use this type of plants as like non-GMO. There is the Swiss National Science Foundation, and they are some they adopt some effects on this GMO. Genetically modified plants are not harmful for human health or the environment. They at first proposed, the Swiss National Science Foundation, they at first proposed that these GMOs or GMPs, they are not so much harmful for human health for the first time, and the appearance of adverse effects at sites where certain transgene varieties are cultivated is not a consequence of genetic engineering. There is some effects of the plants as like their non-GMOs counterparts. This is the normal situation. This is not the effect of techniques. Technology is not responsible. It is the result of poor agricultural practices, such as monoculture. We cannot give some stress to multiculture techniques when we adopt this type of monoculture GMO plants. Some Nobel laureates in June 2016, 129 Nobel laureates, they have signed a letter urging Greenpeace to re-examine and abandon their campaign against GMOs. There has never been any evidence for health issues associated with GMOs. The Nobel laureates, they propose that there has been any evidence, never has been any evidence for health issues associated with the use of GMOs. The impact on the environment is less harmful than the traditional agriculture. GMOs, they have the potential to greatly reduce the death and disease from the issues such as vitamin A deficiency in the developing countries. Rather, GMO can help to decrease the death and disease from the deficiency of vitamin A and like other deficiency syndrome. Sir Richard Roberts is the co-recipient of Nobel Prize in Medicine and or Physiology in 1993, and some also other scientists. They become more vocal on the need of GMOs to assist the developing world, and will continue to push for greater acceptance of GMOs within programs to support the better food security and nutrition. And this is the man, Sir Richard Roberts. According to him, the Green parties and their political allies began a massive campaign not against the true target, Monsanto and the large agrobusinesses, but rather against the surrogate target GMOs. Now, I shall end my discussion by sharing a small video clip of Sir Richard with this regard. Please listen this one.
I'm Rich Roberts, the 1993 Nobel laureate in physiology or medicine. I want to offer my congratulations to Kailash Satyarthi for organizing this Laureates and Leaders Summit for Children. I'm sorry I cannot attend in person to describe initiatives currently underway by 101 Nobel laureates who are demanding that the Green Party's opposition to genetically modified organisms cease immediately. Nowhere are GMOs more needed than in the developing countries where every day children suffer from a lack of proper nutrition. When Greenpeace and their allies mislead the public with false statements and inaccurate science, they directly affect the poor. We all need to stand united to make sure that children everywhere are well educated, don't go to bed hungry, and have the possibility for a good life, free of slavery, malnutrition, and poverty.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mukherjee, for such an informative and enlightening talk. Now I request my colleague, Mr. Bikram Ghosh, to please conduct the interactive session, and after the interactive session, to give the valedictory speech. Over to you, Bikram.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening to all of you. I am Bikram Ghosh from the Department of Botany. Thank you, sir, for such an illuminating discussion. Now we will start our interactive session. Sir, the first question is from Srijan Mukhopadhyay, Srirampur College, a semester 4 student. And the question is, for tearless onions, is there any drawback with regard to nutrition or taste? Also, may I ask if there is any evolutionary reason for this tear-inducing trait, or is it just coincidental?
No, actually, there is nothing loss of other characters like taste and other properties of normal onion. Only this tear-producing factors, it is abolished from this group of plant or onion. And this is another question regarding this.
So the other question is, if there is any evolutionary reason for this tear-inducing trait, or is it just coincidental?
No, it is not coincidental. This character of onion often cause some unpleasant condition to our kitchen people, and this character, when it is introduced by genetically modified technology, it is used without any tear, and we can easily use or chop this onion with no tearing.
Okay, sir. So the next question is from Navanita De, student of our college of semester 2. And the question is that various genetically modified plants produces insecticidal compounds which are not only toxic to the insects but to all other organisms also, and kills animals around the agricultural fields. How can we protect the fauna around the agricultural lands?
Exactly. This is another side effects or bad effects of this group of crops, GM crops. But this toxin, it is not toxic to all organisms. This is toxic only for some insect uh, group of animal, insecta, other rodents or other normal cow, cattle, etc. This is a specific group of organism, and this is Bt toxin. It is only toxic for a small group of or a particular group of larvae or insects only.
Okay, sir.
It is
So
not
the last,
toxic to our human. We are also an animal. It is not toxic for us. Okay, sir.
so the last question is, those genetically modified crops are meeting the food demand, but they have several adverse effects on human health, as we have said, that like allergic reaction, antibiotic resistance, etc. How can we, the consumers, deal with it?
Actually, everything has some positive and negative parameters. Everything, so not only GMOs. But here, according to Sir Richard, the beneficial effect is much more pronounced. We are suffering from hunger. 900 million people throughout the world, they do not gather their food, both qualitatively and quantitatively. But few of them, not all, few of them, say 1 to less than 1% people have some allergic reaction when we use specific products, not all. Say non-GMO products can cause also some allergic reaction. Some are allergic to brinjal, some are allergic to prawn, some are allergic to cucumber. But this is not due to genetically modified technology. But this type of some or least amount of health risk is less than that of the pronounced beneficial effect of GMO. We must go for GMO, and it is the ultimate and future goal or point to eradicate the hunger or meeting food security.
Thank you, sir. So this is the end of the interactive session. Now I will take some time to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our resource person, Dr. Arindam Mukherjee of Mrinalini Datta Mahavidyapith, who have enlightened us today through his discussion. I want to extend my heartfelt gratitude to our Madam Principal, Dr. Bidisha Ghosh Dostidar, for her support and guidance. I wish to thank the IQAC coordinator, Professor Mohua Basu, for helping and guiding us to organize this state-level webinar. I also thank the convener of webinar subcommittee, Professor Rima Kanjilal ma'am, for her constant guidance and support. I wish to extend my gratitude to the technical team of our college who helped us to successfully organize this webinar. I thank the participants for their cooperation and patience. Finally, I would like to thank the teaching and non-teaching staff of our college for their constant support. We will be organizing many more webinars in the coming days. Congratulations and thank you all very much. Now, I am requesting Madam Rima Kanjilal to take over the session for informally ending the webinar. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you so much, Vikram. So before informally ending the webinar, I again thank our resource person, Dr. Arindam Mukherjee, for his very informative and useful lecture. Thank you so much, sir. And thank you, sir. I thank all the participants for your patience. But there is one request that participants, before you leave the meeting, kindly fill up the feedback form. The link has already been posted in the chat box. In order to get the e-certificates, you have to fill up the feedback form. So please kindly fill up the feedback form before you leave the meeting. Otherwise, you won't get your e-certificates. So thank you very much. Good night to all of you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.